Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Office of the Prime Minister. Questions in the chat, please, after a few words from me. It's Monday, the 7th of October, 1 year on, a date that will live on in infamy. On this sad day, we begin with sad news of fallen Israeli soldiers. IDF casualties since the start of the war have unfortunately risen to 728. Sergeant First Class in the Reserves Nir Haddad was 28 years old and from Petah Tikva. He was severely wounded on the 15th of June, battling Hamas in northern Gaza, and succumbed to his wounds just yesterday. Sergeant First Class Noam Barzilai was 22 years old and from Kochav Yair. Captain Eitan Itzhak Oster was also 22 years old and from Modi'in Maccabim Reut. Captain Harel Ettinger was 23 years old and from Eli. First Sergeant Ido Breuer was 21 years old and from Nes Ziona. Captain Itai Ariel Giat was 23 years old and from Shoham. First Sergeant Al-Meken Terefe was 21 years old and from Jerusalem. Sergeant First Class Netzer Itkin was 21 years old and from Kiryat Atta. Captain Ben-Sion Falach was 21 years old and from Nitzani Oz. Sergeant Daniel Aviv Chaim Sofer was just 19 years old and from Ashkelon. Corporal Tal Dror was also just 9 years old and from Jerusalem. And Master Sergeant in the Reserves, Itai Azulai, was 25 years old and from Oranit. All these boys were killed fighting Hezbollah in our north and in southern Lebanon. The achievements of the military campaign are many, but the war has indeed exacted a very heavy price. Our hearts are with the bereaved families. Our armed forces are operating boldly and bravely to bring back the hostages and eliminate the terrorist threat to the citizens of the State of Israel. The Prime Minister extended his and the people of Israel's deepest condolences to the families of our heroes who fell defending our north in Lebanon and in Gaza. The Prime Minister said that we are in the heat of a grueling war against Iran's axis of evil, aimed at destroying this country. That will not happen, he said, because we shall stand together, and with God's help, we shall emerge victorious together. We will return our hostages in the south, we will return our residents in the north, and we will ensure the eternity of the State of Israel. May their memories be a blessing forever. Exactly a year ago, our country's history was changed forever. The Hamas deadly terror attack on October 7th shocked our nation as it shocked the world. Indeed, we remain shaken. The State of Israel today bows its head and marks the anniversary of Hamas's deadly jihadist attack. Without doubt, one of the most difficult events in the history of the State of Israel and the Jewish people. We as the Jewish people have faced evil in the past, but what's different now? The question can be answered loudly and clearly. Today, we have a State of Israel, and we have the Israel Defense Forces to defend ourselves. Following that Hamas campaign of mass murder, rape, kidnapping and looting, Israel is still fighting a just war against a vicious terrorist organization which has committed horrific genocidal acts and crimes against humanity. It is Israel's obligation and it is Israel's right to operate to protect our sovereignty and citizens in accordance with international law. None of us will forget that day. Now an update from COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza. In the last few days, the lie has been repeated, has re-emerged in the media that Israel is blocking aid. The truth is precisely the opposite. Since the start of this war, we have coordinated over 1,060,000 tons on over 54,000 trucks into Gaza. Israel does not block aid going into Gaza. The aid organizations prioritize the type and the amount of aid, and we are happy to facilitate whatever is coordinated. Over the last few months, aid is being coordinated from Egypt based on the abilities of the UN aid organizations to pick up the aid from the Gazan side of the Kerem Shalom crossing. And you can get more details of Israel's humanitarian efforts on COGAT's website. So that's the end of our briefing today. I will now take your questions. Please put them in the chat together with your news outlet. Okay, first question here is from Jim Williams from Zenga International News Service. Last week, as I sat in synagogue for holiday services, there was an undercurrent of fear in the air. The security was visible both inside the building and on the street outside. But I also felt a strong sense of community and determination that October the 7th will never be forgotten. But also neither will there be a fear of showing the world I'm a proud Jew. That would give Hamas and the Iranian proxies what they want. Can you just scroll down a little bit more? Could you just scroll down a little bit more? Okay. Okay, just scroll down a little bit more. There we go. I share this story with you to get the view from the Prime Minister's office on where the state of Israel is now, proud and not fearful. Thank you for that question, Jim. On this day, all of us here in Israel have the memories of a day which will live on in infamy. None of us will forget where we were that morning, on that Saturday morning on a Jewish festival, when all those rockets came over and the reports started to come of 10 casualties, 20 casualties, 30, then 40, then 100, then 200. Terrible crimes against humanity. For myself, I will never forget the shrieks of joy which the Hamas terrorists recorded themselves with, and which you could hear, never mind the footage itself, but the shrieks, the sheer euphoria the terrorists took in the killing, the appalling atrocities they committed that day. All of us have the images seared into our brains. Our responsibility is to defend this country, and that is precisely what we will do. Israel is stronger today, we are more united today, and we are more determined today that this country, this small, embattled country, this homeland for the Jewish people, with our 3,000-year history, but only with 76 years being the state of Israel, that this country was designed to be a homeland for the Jewish people, together with the others, any others that wish to live here together with us in peace, as a homeland for the Jewish people where we could live in safety and security, free from persecution. And we are working, we are battling every day to bring home our hostages and to return that security to this country. And we will succeed. We have already made tremendous progress in defeating the terrorists which surround us, financed by Iran, guided by Iran. We have already made tremendous progress, and we will not stop until the job is done of defending this country. Our next question is from Alexander Cornwell from Reuters. What does the government assess as the impact of the military operations on Hezbollah's military capabilities? And you also ask, how degraded military does the government believe Hezbollah is? Well, thank you for that question, Alexander. Well, let me share with you first of all our war aims, because this war will continue until all of our goals are met, and they are the return of our hostages, the dismantling of Hamas's government and military capabilities, the removing of the terrorist threat to Israel, and the returning of our residents safely to their homes in the north, in sovereign Israeli territory. But let me share with you, particularly on Lebanon and Hezbollah. The Prime Minister just yesterday actually visited our security forces in the north just yesterday on the Lebanese border at an IDF base, actually right up against the Lebanese border, and he held a security assessment with the IDF, and he was briefed on the deployment of our forces inside Lebanon, the operational achievements to date and the future objectives. Look, top of our agenda in Lebanon is the destruction of Hezbollah's capabilities. You ask how much of it has been done already? Much has already been achieved during the ground effort and the use of intense fire. The Prime Minister's already spoken about our armed forces, about the intense combat on the multiple fronts which we have been facing and taking forward now for a year now. And just several meters actually away from where he was standing, just over the border, our soldiers are right now dismantling the terrorist infrastructure that Hezbollah has prepared to attack our communities. Now, the Prime Minister said quite clearly that our soldiers, we believe, all of us believe here in Israel, are heroes, worthy of our commendation. Our soldiers, together with all of our soldiers in every branch of the IDF, and all of our security forces, whether in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, and throughout the region, are doing amazing things. They are fighting like lions. Just a year ago, we took a terrible, terrible blow. But in the 12 months since then, we have changed the reality across the board. And indeed, the entire world is astonished by the blows which our armed forces are landing on our enemies. If you remember, all the pundits talked about the tunnel network in Gaza and that we'd never be able to defeat them. We have largely smashed Hamas. Of their 24 battalions, 23 have been shattered. We're mopping up the rest as we speak right now. So the Prime Minister saluted our armed forces and also this generation, which he called the generation of victory. So together we will fight, and all of us here believe that together, with God's help, we will win. Next question is from Drive Time RTE radio. Re the UNIFIL troops at post 652. UNIFIL says it's deeply concerned by recent IDF activities immediately adjacent to position 652. What can you say to allay those fears? Are you speaking to the UN about this? Are you compromising the safety of UN peacekeepers there? Have you asked UNIFIL troops to move from that position? Let me deal with that issue right now from RTE in Ireland. UN Resolution 1701 is crystal clear about the need for the space between our northern border, the southern border of Lebanon, and the Litani River to be free of Hezbollah. And it was the responsibility of the United Nations, the UNIFIL force there actually, to make sure that that space was not occupied by Hezbollah. That has not come to pass. UNIFIL has failed in its mission. The United Nations has failed in its mission. They have been wholly ineffective. They have not enforced that responsibility, their responsibility, UNIFIL's responsibility to ensure that Hezbollah are away from our border. They have failed in that responsibility. So because they have failed in that responsibility, and because the United Nations has not upheld anything about 1701, we have been forced, despite much diplomacy over the last year, and despite the over 10,000 rockets, drones, and missiles that we have received from Hezbollah, we have been forced to literally push Hezbollah up and away from our border. Not because we have any desire to occupy any part of Lebanon, but because we have a responsibility to return our people to their homes in the north of Israel. And that's precisely what the objective of this operation is. We have said this is a targeted operation, we have said this is a limited operation, and we have said this is a localized operation. We've already shown, and you can see this on the IDF website and Telegram feed, the tunnels and the attack preparations which Hezbollah had on our northern border to put into action their plan, what they called Conquer the Galilee. They wished to do what Hamas did on October the 7th in our south. They wished to do it on our north, only with more weapons and more sophisticated, more experienced terrorist fighters. Look, we know that Hezbollah is the best armed, the most organized, the best funded terrorist organization in the entire globe. We know that Iran is behind them, and we also know that it is our responsibility to push them back so that our residents can be free to live in their homes in the north of Israel. That's what any country would do. And as for UNIFIL, they should either themselves push Hezbollah back. They have summarily failed to do that since 2006. And if they don't do that, then Israel must be allowed to continue its work to degrade Hezbollah, to push them back, and to return peace to our border. Okay, next question, please. Alexander, okay, we've done that one. Jody Cohen from from World is One News in India. What's your prediction for the 7th of October 2025? Thank you for that question, Jody. I'm not in the predictions business, nor is the government, but what I can tell you is that this government and our people are determined. They are determined as never before, because the point which most people don't quite seem to get about this is a war for our very existence. Hezbollah say very clearly that they wish to destroy this country. They say it very clearly, so does Iran. You know that there's a square in Iran with a timer counting down to the destruction of this country. It's the only, as our president has said, it's the only country inside the United Nations, Iran, that wants to destroy, that wants to wipe this country off the face of the map. And we are here to stop them. There is only one homeland for the Jewish people, together with the other people which wish to live here with us in peace. So we have a responsibility to defend this country. Now, let me answer your question more specifically. We have both the responsibility and the right to defend ourselves against this Iranian aggression, and all of the 7 fronts we're fighting now is Iranian aggression. Now, Iran has twice now launched hundreds of missiles against our people. In one of the largest, Tuesday night, where myself and my family and almost all of Israel was in bomb shelters, it was one of the largest ballistic missile attacks in the history of mankind. We say this very clearly, that no state in the world would tolerate such an attack against our cities and our citizens. This Iranian axis of evil has declared its intentions to destroy this country, and they're operating towards that end. No one should be in any doubt. They formed a stranglehold against this country. It's a ring of armed terror armies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and other militias. Look, we're on high alert, Jody, and we will exact a heavy price for any aggression against this country from any arena. In Lebanon right now, it's a focused, limited ground operation in southern Lebanon. But make no mistake, the IDF is operating against these terror targets in the region adjacent to our border in order to eliminate the threat that they pose to the towns of our north. And the IDF has been operating against Hezbollah targets adjacent to our border. And we will restore peace to our northern border and allow our people to return to their homes. So they are free from the threat of terror tunnels, from Hezbollah weaponry, from Hezbollah missiles, from Hezbollah launchers, all of which have been detected and destroyed already. Next question. Joel Pollack from Breitbart News. Is Israel stronger today than it was 1 year ago? Thank you for that question, Joel. I believe that we are. This country has come together in the most remarkable way, and we are fighting together to destroy this terrorist menace. We have learnt a lot. The IDF has surpassed itself in the methods which it's been able to learn extremely quickly. Hezbollah have embedded themselves inside civilian infrastructure. Hezbollah and Hamas have done the same, but we have learnt very quickly how to destroy and how to get civilians out of harm's way and be able to target the terrorists themselves. And we've had tremendous success in that. Next question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Is there a concern that an earthquake last week in a remote location in Iran may have been a nuclear test? Thank you for that question, Joel. I've got nothing to add to that. That's the first I've heard of it. Next question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Can Israel confirm the death of Hezbollah's supposed replacement leader, Hashim Safi al-Din? Thank you for that question, Joel. We don't have that confirmation yet. When it is confirmed, and as and when, it will be on the IDF's website. And that's where you'll probably get the initial indication of our success in decapitating this terrorist organization of Hezbollah, considered a terrorist organization in the US. They've got US blood on their hands, they've got French blood on their hands, they've got Jewish blood on their hands, they've got Israeli blood on their hands, they've got Bulgarian blood on their hands. They're an international terrorist organization determined to destroy this country, and we will stand up to them. Next question is here from Hannah Julian of the Jewish Press. It's been announced that CENTCOM Chief Michael Kurilla conducted a situation assessment yesterday with top Israeli military officials. How long is General Kurilla expected to be here? And also, can you confirm that Defense Minister Yoav Gallant is scheduled to meet in Washington on Wednesday with his American counterpart, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin? Thank you for that question, Hannah. As you know, we are side by side with our American allies, shoulder to shoulder. Our relationship between the US and Israel has never, ever been closer because we have, of course, so many of our shared values, but also because we're the only democracy in hundreds of miles in any direction. We're facing the same enemies as well. That's Iran. We're only a stopgap on the way to defeating other countries that love freedom. Iran have said that they wish to destroy this country, but only as a stopgap onto other democracies. In terms of other issues in which you ask about there, the IDF would be the best place to comment on the CENTCOM chief. We don't normally comment on how long he is staying with us, together with the movements of our Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, and his planned trip to the US. Okay, are there any more questions? Can you just scroll up for a second? Okay, I think that was the last question. So thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Our next briefing will be tomorrow at the same time. Please do stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.